This NBA season has a lot happening across the league, and we're seeing a lot of familiar faces lead the way in most categories. The best players typically remain at the top for an extended period of time, but every year we see a few guys start to match the production of the top tier out of nowhere, and they are often slept on by the national audience. So that is exactly who we'll be focusing on in today's video. In this video, we'll be discussing 5 players in particular that are having low-key great seasons this year, flying under the radar as they do so for a variety of reasons. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first player we'll be discussing today that's having a slept-on great season this year is Jalen Johnson of the Atlanta Hawks. Jalen Johnson's journey to the NBA and through the NBA to this point has been a pretty wild ride, and in case you don't know what I'm referring to, let's go back to his days at Duke. He went to Duke as one of the most highly regarded 5-star recruits in the class of 2020, but his freshman season was filled with inconsistencies, and midway through that season, he dropped out to focus on the draft, which left a sour taste in the mouths of some fans, labeling him as a quitter, questioning his work ethic, and after once being viewed as a lock to be picked in the lottery of that draft, he ended up sliding all the way down to the 20th pick, just outside. His first 2 seasons with the Hawks were also pretty quiet, with him struggling to really establish any kind of consistent role in their rotation, and some were ready to call him a bust in the making, but last year he really started to find his footing and emerged as a highly versatile two-way wing, and now this year he's quietly starting to produce like one of the better players at the small forward position. Johnson is putting up 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists per game, giving the Hawks a little bit of everything, and he genuinely creates mismatches everywhere with the ball in his hands. He's becoming a Swiss Army knife of a player, improving tenfold as a shot creator, attacking the basket, and as a facilitator, and he's even being useful as an off-ball cutter and screener, pairing beautifully with Trae Young as the team's focal points of the offense. The next player having a low-key great season this year is Jordan Poole of the Washington Wizards. After the season he had last year, I don't think I would have ever in a million years imagined a world where Poole would land on a list like this, but after everyone essentially gave up on him, he's bouncing back looking way better than he ever did, even during his time on the Warriors. Poole's always been a streaky, yet flashy and creative scoring guard who wouldn't always produce in the most efficient way, but he would go off for a huge scoring night every now and then when things started to click, he would really get going. This season, things seem to be clicking way more often. He's playing a more mature style of basketball with more purposeful movements and decisions, he's not forcing things as much, and as a result of it, he's seeing a career high across the board. Poole is currently scoring a career best 22 points per game, he's shooting a career best 40% from 3, he's dishing out a career best 5 assists a night, and his ability to thrive while also getting his younger Wizards teammates involved is really demonstrating that he's turning a corner for the better as a player. The Wizards are, of course, a very lowly team, not getting much national attention as a result of it, so it's easy to miss out on this Jordan Poole reemergence, but he definitely deserves a ton of credit for how night and day his game is compared to last season. The next player having a slept-on great season this year is Norman Powell of the Los Angeles Clippers. Norman Powell has been one of the league's best sixth men for a few years now, so when Paul George left the Clippers in free agency this summer, there was an opening for more of a prominent role in the offense up for grabs. Powell saw that opportunity, grabbed it by the horns, and has yet to look back. He's playing with more confidence than ever, he's becoming the team's #1 scoring option in the absence of Kawhi Leonard, and he's doing it in a way that is also conducive to winning basketball games, which nobody thought would be possible at all for the Clippers before the year started. Powell is putting up a career-high 24 points per game, and what is easily the most impressive part of it is the fact that he's not only taking more shots and more threes than he ever did before, but he's also making his threes at a 44% clip, which is not only a career high, but also ranks in the top 10 of the entire NBA. Him doing that has easily been the biggest reason why the team is currently 21-17, sitting in 5th place in the Western Conference standings, because, as I mentioned earlier, nobody was giving the Clippers a chance to make the playoffs, yet here they are, staying afloat, knowing they're also about to get Kawhi Leonard back on the court soon. The next player having a low-key great season this year is Nikola Vucevic of the Chicago Bulls. Vucevic is a former All-Star who, for the last few seasons, was looking like he lost a step. His time on the Orlando Magic saw him emerge as a highly skilled big man who could punish defenses inside and out. He's been a terrific passer at the center position for years, and his work in the pick and roll and pick and pop were always so tough to stop. That changed when, especially last season, his jumper fell off a cliff from an efficiency perspective, and for some reason he found himself in a slump that he just could not shake. He was one of the worst volume three-point shooters in the entire NBA last season, and his ineffectiveness from the perimeter limited his effectiveness everywhere else, and as such, with him also being a subpar defender, it made him a liability at times despite his numbers on paper looking pretty solid. This season, Vucevic is turning back the clock, looking like his old self from his days on the Magic, and it's helping the Bulls make a surprise run at a spot in the play-in tournament when everyone expected them to be tanking. Vucevic is averaging 20 points and 10 rebounds per game, shooting a career-best 43% from 3, which, at 34 years old, is pretty impressive. The Bulls have a lot of guys that are probably higher in the pecking order of importance on the team, but Vucevic naturally finds his role within the offense, he doesn't try to do too much, and he produces efficiently when the opportunities present themselves. So in terms of his future, the Bulls may have other playoff contenders calling them around the trade deadline, trying to trade for his services. And finally, the last player having a low-key great season this year is actually Vucevic's teammate on the Bulls, Zach LaVine. As has been a common theme throughout this video, LaVine is another player who was written off previously, with many assuming that his best days were behind him. He's been an all-star twice in his career, but last season really left a lot to be desired. In the first couple of months of the last season, he was averaging fewer than 20 points per game for the first time since 2018, he was shooting the ball poorly, his once out-of-this-world athleticism wasn't really on display, and his defense was abysmal. So when he got shut down for the rest of the year to have surgery, his stock hit an all-time low. This season, though, he has fully bounced back, and not only is he playing like his former all-star self, but in some ways, he's playing even better. LaVine is averaging 24 points per game this year, making a ridiculous 45.5% of his threes, which is the 5th best mark in the entire NBA, and he takes nearly double the amount of three-point attempts as the 4 guys ranked ahead of him, so it's fair to say that he's been the best volume three-point shooter in the whole league this season. He is, of course, doing it on a middling Bulls squad, not necessarily catching many people's eyes, so it's understandable that his season is flying under the radar, but he's expected to be one of the hottest commodities around the trade deadline for good reason, and if a contender scoops him up, they're getting a massive boost to their offense. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these underrated seasons. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.